Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Another St. Catherine councillor caretaker dead under tragic circumstances. MP calls for an end to extortion in Gregory Park, St. Catherine. And later in sports, Jamaica women trailing Barbados in T20 cricket. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. Up first, the Jamaica Labour Party JLP has lost another councillor caretaker under tragic circumstances. Omar Francis, who was recently selected as the party's representative for the Point Hill division in the St. Catherine West Central constituency, died in a motor vehicle crash this morning. The incident happened sometime after midnight in Biles district in Kitson Town. Residents told TVJ News that they heard a noise and went to investigate.
Having a reason. And then we only hear woodum. We just a slam we hear. And then we come out we come see the car in the stone. And we go up there in a vehicle see him and we take him out and put him on ground, and then a pro box was there. So we put him in it and send him on to hospital. So we make a call and call the councillor and him say I head him way down to the hospital so we know what is what. So as soon as him reach down there, him call her back and tell me say him dead. So that was it.
Mr. Francis replaced the previous Point Hill Division representative Wesley Suku, who died in December 2019. Member of Parliament for St. Catherine West Central, Dr. Christopher Tufton, paid tribute to Mr. Francis on social media site Twitter. Last month, councillor caretaker for the Southborough Division in St. Catherine, Lennox Hines, was fatally shot on the Marcus Garvey Drive in Kingston. A strong warning this afternoon for criminals in Gregory Park, Portmore, from the MP for East Central St. Catherine. Details in this report.
The extortion must stop.
That warning from St. Catherine East Central Member of Parliament, Alanda Terrelong. It comes as criminals are wreaking havoc in one of the communities that falls under his stewardship, Gregory Park. The community has seen its share of murders and extortions. The MP has since voiced strong condemnation.
You know, it's very unfortunate because prior to 2020, we never had extortion taking place in the Gregory Park space. All right, we never had it at all. You know, and now this year, you have a whole set of, we don't even know where them come from. They call them aliens or deportees. All right, and they've crept into the Gregory Park space and they're wreaking havoc. You know, this quest for every man want power and every man want done and every man want control and everything. Allow the citizens to go look work.
He's imploring the young people who are involved in a life of crime to put up some resistance. Mr. Terrelong noted that with the unemployment rate falling, there is now increased opportunity for the young people to be gainfully employed.
We're asking the young man, listen, put on the things then. The only thing we're supposed to have on our hand right now is a pen, a learn, and an empower and empower on the mind. So we really want the peace to come back to the area in Gregory Park. I mean, the residents are terrified, the business community is terrified, people are threatening to close down their stores because they cannot deal with the extortion and they're not going to put up with the extortion.
In the meantime, this assurance to residents.
We've met with SSP Phillips, you know, who is in charge of the division as well, you know, and we want to assure the residents that everything is being done. There's greater intelligence gathering. Just last week, 3 men were arrested. I mean, they were on the list and 3 men were arrested just last week, and we want to assure the residents that the police, the security force are doing everything they can using technology to capture the hoodlums, the criminals, these cowards who are terrorizing the Gregory Park space.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
To other news, concerns this afternoon about the impact certain protests have on the environment. This comes on the heels of the celebration of Environmental Awareness Week recently. In the first of a 2-part special report, Sandy Williams explores the issue and now joins us live. Sandy.
Thanks, Giovanni. Protesters used different types of debris to block roads during their demonstrations. But for years, the worrying practice of cutting down trees to use as barricades has become more frequent, especially in rural areas.
The most recent case was on May 16 when protesters toppled several trees to block the Darliston Main Road in Westmoreland. They had claimed their action was necessary to bring attention to the infrastructural needs in the constituency. But experts say the practice is a serious problem.
Cutting of trees ultimately leads to loss of biodiversity, loss of cover type, and loss of the services that trees provide on a whole. Eventually, these barricades will become used as, they'll be burnt or discarded into gullies or watercourses, which eventually can block waterways.
When the rain comes, those discarded items, tree trunks and branches, will float into the water and clog your waterway, your drains and the gully, cause flooding, damage to property, and ultimately loss of lives. So you see, that's very destructive there.
Environmentalist Peter Espute emphasizes the importance of trees.
They capture water, rainfall, and send it down into the earth to what we call the aquifer. And later on, wells can access that water for us to drink. And sometimes when the aquifer runs on a hard surface, it comes up to the surface as a river. And so Jamaica would have fewer rivers and much less water if we didn't have trees.
Additionally, trees help to reduce air pollution, provide soil stability, and forms a buffer to extreme heat. It's why Mr. Espute says the practice must be stopped. However, he believes the government is not serious about holding persons accountable.
I would say one of the main guilty parties in cutting down of trees is the government. They have allowed bauxite mining companies to chop down hundreds of thousands of trees. They've allowed limestone mining companies to cut down trees. And when they build roads, they cut down trees. And when they build houses, they cut down trees. And when they build hotels, they cut down trees. So the government has not only failed to stop people from cutting down trees, the government is a major chopper down of trees.
Is the practice illegal? And which agency is responsible for prosecuting people who cut trees to use as barricades during protest? We'll explore those issues in part 2. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. The Cabinet is expected to deliberate today on the cancellation of this year's festival song competition in a bid to address mounting concerns. The Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, JCDC, recently advised the Ministry of Culture to cancel the annual festival due to the poor quality of the more than 120 entries. This has sparked outrage in some quarters. Speaking with TVJ News on Sunday, Culture Minister Olivia Babs-Grange provided an update.
And I did indicate that there are 3 songs that the panel found were of the standard. They will do some upgrading in terms of maybe a remix or minor changes to them based on the entrance agreeing. Now, I did say, do we have a contest with 3 titles or do we just have the 3 songs released? The feeling is that the country wants a competition, the country wants a contest. You cannot have a contest of 3 unless we're going to call it 3 the hard way.
There are also other suggestions on the table to include extending the time period for entries.
We have a very short lead time in which we would be in a position to do that. I could also ask the panelists to go through the 19 that were shortlisted and to see if there are titles there that could be restructured, reproduced, and make lift the quality of those entries.
To other news, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says no stone will be left unturned in the fight against criminal elements in the country. Speaking at the Jamaica Labour Party Area Council 2 meeting on Sunday, Mr. Holness noted that stronger laws are now being worked on. Herman Green reports.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has suggested concerns about tougher crime measures being implemented by his administration are needless. The government recently announced it's seeking to prevent persons charged with murder and gun crimes from getting bail. Speaking at yesterday's JLP Area 2 Council meeting in Sydenham, St. Catherine, Mr. Holness said there is a fear and mistrust that legislative changes are meant to take away people's rights. But he says the changes proposed by the government will only apply in limited situations.
And I can appreciate the fear, genuine fear, that when you have these powers, states can become lazy and try to just use them generally. And we are not proposing general for every. What we want to be able to do is to have specific powers that are targeted to a specific kind of criminal, a specific type of crime that demonstrates that its threat is of the level of being existential, meaning that it could threaten the very existence of the Jamaican state.
Mr. Holness noted that the new Firearms Act is now before Parliament and the Bail Act will be tabled soon. He says next, the government will be seeking to address the issue of the use of emergency powers.
Then we are coming very shortly with the new Enhanced Security Measures Act, which will help us to put in place some of the measures that were previously under states of public emergency that would help us with the control of the criminal terrorists in our midst. So that is being finalized, and as soon as we have completed the Bail Act, then we will come with this new piece of legislation.
And Mr. Holness said the courts need to take into consideration the national sentiment in relation to the state of crime in the country.
Our judicial system needs to take note of the frustration of the people. Justice is blind, but it should not be deaf.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
And it's now time for the Business Minute with Cody and Barrett.
In business news, Scotia Group Jamaica's Vice President Richard Fraser has resigned. Mr. Fraser, who also serves as Senior Legal Counsel and Corporate Secretary, will demit office in July 14. He is the second senior officer to leave the company in a matter of months. In February, Scotia's Senior Vice President and Head of Insurance and Wealth, Dr. Adrian Stokes, resigned. And in business internationally, Asian stock markets have fallen sharply as soaring prices in America triggered fears the Federal Reserve will take tougher action to rein in inflation. At the same time, the US dollar strengthened to 135 Japanese yen for the first time in over 2 decades. It comes as official figures showed on Friday that US inflation hit a more than 40-year high last month. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
Time now for the top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In regional news, the United States says it is committed to resettling Haitian refugees amid concerns that millions of migrants are displaced across Latin America and the Caribbean. The United States also commits to receiving an increased number of referrals of displaced Haitians into the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. Washington said it is encouraging other governments to join in opening new legal pathways for protection and opportunities for Haitians and other displaced populations in the Americas. On the international scene, family and friends of missing journalist Dom Phillips and indigenous expert Bruno Pereira are calling for answers as they protested on the streets of Rio on Sunday. This comes as authorities announced that personal belongings, including a backpack and shoes owned by the missing British reporter, were found in the Amazon. The two disappeared in a remote area of Brazil's Amazon last week. On Friday, Brazilian federal police officials also stated that organic material that is apparently human was also discovered by search team near the location where Phillips and Pereira were heading to end their trip. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Renardo Brown will have the Midday Sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for your Midday Sports. Now, Jamaica went down by 24 runs to Barbados in their top-of-the-table clash in the Cricket West Indies Women's T20 Blaze at Providence a short while ago. Set 130 runs to win. Jamaica were bowled out for 105, while they made 105 for 6. Stephanie Taylor top scored with 26, while Chanel Henry made 24. Batting first, Barbados posted 129 for 4 from their 20 overs. led by West Indies vice-captain Haley Matthews, who made 74 not out from 63 balls. Matthews' innings consisted of 9 fours, as Kessia Knight was next best with 14, while sister Keshona Knight made 10. Corinne Howell ended with 2 for 27 for the Jamaicans. The other games today, Windward Islands face Trinidad and Tobago at 1:30, while the Leewards and Guyana meet at 6 p.m. And host England hold the advantage over New Zealand heading into the final day of the second test in Nottingham, as the visitors at sports time reached 204 for the loss of 6, a lead of 218 runs. Devon Conway 52 and Will Young 56 are the top scorers for New Zealand in their second innings so far. Now, earlier, resuming the day at 473 for 5 in response to New Zealand's first innings, 553, England could only add another 62 runs for the loss of their last 5 wickets. Joe Root, who entered the day on 163, added only 10 runs before being the first to be dismissed. Ben Fowkes took his overnight 24 to 56 before he was run out, as Trent Boult ended with 5 for 106. Michael Bracewell supported with 3 for 62. And finally, with less than 2 weeks to go before the start of the National Senior Championships, quarter-miler Javan Francis says Sunday's appearance at the World Continental Tour in New York was used to fine-tune preparations. Francis finished second in the men's 400 meters on Sunday in 45.73 seconds in what was only his 4th race over the distance outdoor this season. The two-time national 400-meter champion has a season's best of 45.47 seconds from earlier this month, but has not been anywhere close to his best, and that's 44.54, done in 2015 to win the national title. Speaking after his race on Sunday, the two-time World Championship relay silver medalist says the race was used as a training exercise.
My race strategy is a little bit different, with my coach Andre. So I just come out here to see what I've been, so I'm glad with the performance.
The National Senior Championships is set to run from June 23 to 26 at the National Stadium. And that's it for your Midday Sports Report. Giovanni, it's back to you.
Thanks, Leonardo, and that's it indeed for the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis on behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams. Have a good afternoon.